Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. If you've listened the last few days, 2 days ago I did my top specials of the year. Yesterday I did the next best specials of the year. And today is, and I want to keep it positive, but today are some specials that are just not on the list. Some of them I liked a lot, but just not on the list. So as I make the list, tier A are the things that I feel like just nailed it. Like really funny, comedian trying to do something, not just a special by the numbers, just it's got that little certain something. Then the next group are things like, Seth Meyers doing Seth Meyers things. And if you're sitting on a couch for an hour, fine, solid special, you laugh, but there's nothing special about it with a capital S, you know what I mean? And then today are some other things, and I'll share with you why they didn't make the list. And I'm all proud of myself. After having weeks of voice trouble, my voice is pretty strong today. This is the third podcast in a row because I've done all these list episodes back to back to back. And I've got my large iced coffee with caramel and milk. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews to support the show. But voice is holding up, which is good, right? Not on the list, and there's no particular order to this list. Maybe a slight chronological as something came out and I added it to the bottom, but don't read anything into the order in which I discuss the following specials that are not on the list. Not on the list, Adrienne Appalucci's Dark Queen, and I wrote, I didn't buy the premises of the jokes. They felt like all untrue premises. I'll compare that to Ronnie Chang. Ronnie has that big opening sweep about freezing his wife's eggs. Clearly told for comedic effect, but I believe the underlying story. Whereas with Adrienne, I just didn't believe anything she was saying, and it takes me out of it. I need something to be at least a little bit reality-based, unless you're going like full Stephen Wright. Not on the list. Ali Wong's Single Lady. It's not for me. Not all comedian is targeted at a 55-year-old married dude sitting in a basement with kids recording a podcast. I'm not the target audience there, so I wasn't feeling it at all. Doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's not funny, doesn't mean you won't like it, just not on my list. And I can't say this enough times. It's just one dude's list. Let's not get angry about the list. The list isn't made to make people feel bad. It doesn't mean anything. What it really means is John wanted to take 3 days off after Christmas, and everybody else puts out lists, so why shouldn't I? That's what this really means. Also, not on the list, Jo Koy. Yeah, he had a special this year. Remember that one? No, me neither. I wrote down all energy, no jokes. Very disappointing by Jo Koy. Perhaps Taylor Swift really rattled his game. Who knows? Not on the list, Rami Youssef's HBO special from March, and I wrote, I didn't like the direction. I couldn't focus. I know some folks have had this on their top 10s, but just the way it was edited kept taking me out of it. Comedy directors, how about you shoot the camera at the comedian and you leave it there? I'm getting old, but all this fast cut stuff, I just don't like. Rami had weird lighting, so the direction just ruined it for me. The material might be amazing, but I don't know. I bailed. Pete Davidson had a Netflix special in January. Remember that one? I wrote terrible. And then I wrote even more damning, fake laughs, ? That was a note I had on a lot of specials this year that because of what I do for a living, I've worked in radio professionally since 92 and college radio before that. I've listened to a lot of audio over the years, and weird edits will get my attention. Even Ronnie Chang's special, which I loved early on, there's some weird video jumps that I was like, that didn't seem natural. But as I watched Pete, I felt like they added laughs, and boy, there's nothing more damning than that. Jackie Novak, Get on Your Knees on Netflix in January. I've seen that on a lot of other people's top 10 lists. I lasted 4 minutes with that special, and like I said earlier, not every special is targeted at me. Wasn't for me. You might like it. Kevin James, Irregardless, was on Amazon in January. I lasted 7 minutes. He was doing this weird dancing thing, and no thanks, I'm out. Rory Scovel had one on Max, and I wrote the same note I did with Pete. The laughter has me suspicious, and if I don't trust that you haven't added laughter, I don't trust your special, and I'm out. I have that same note about Neil Brennan's Netflix special back in April. I wrote material was good, but fake laughs. Just don't do that. 4 specials that came and went. I have no note on them. Donnell Rawlings, Netflix, February. Jenny Slate, Amazon, February. Steve Trevino, Netflix in March. Liz Mealy on YouTube in April. Nikki Glaser's HBO special. I've seen some people put her way up on the list. I think she crushed at Tom Brady, but I didn't think that special was all that. Again, maybe I'm not the target audience for it, but I watched that. I was like, all right, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to throw a pie at you if you like it, but it's fine. Some more specials, not on Johnny Mac's list. Again, I can't say enough. It's just a list. Let's not get upset about it. I'm just talking. Hannah Einbinder had a special on Max, and I wrote, is she even a good stand-up? Boy, I must have been cranky when I wrote that one down, but that's what I wrote. It's not how I feel right now, but I did write that sentence. I'm looking at my note right here under Other Projects, Best of 2024, and it says, is she even a good stand-up? Ronan Hirschberg had a special on YouTube. I wrote, generic comedian, generic comedy. Christina Catherine Martinez had How to Bake a Cake, and I wrote weird and not funny, and I usually like weird. Natasha Vainblatt had one on YouTube, and I wrote, it's fine, nothing special. Dan Licata for the Boys on YouTube at his old high school. I saw what he was trying to do. He went back to his old high school. He got some teenagers in the audience, but there's like a fake teacher being like, you shouldn't be doing that kind of material. Like, I see what he's trying to do, but it just didn't work. I actually wrote the sentence, not good. Hannah Berner, July Netflix. I just wrote, not for me. Again, some specials are not for me. All good. Langston Kerman in August on Netflix. I wrote, fine. Anthony Jeselnik, Netflix in November. I lasted 7 minutes and found it not funny. I have seen people on the interwebs disagree with that sentiment, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it, and maybe the whole Jeselnik character is cooked now, and I don't know where he would go from here. Unless he just did a total different pivot and became a different kind of stand-up. So I don't know. Also that week, James Acaster's HBO special. And I wrote, not sure what he's doing. The premise there was that hecklers were allowed to interrupt him. Okay, good premise. And then maybe you should have some hecklers in the show if that's the premise. So I don't know what I know what he was trying to do, but he didn't do it. Jim Gaffigan had a special in November on Hulu, the lead off of the hilarious specials. And I wrote, boring Jim doing Jim things. Jim had a pretty good year. The SNL thing helped him a lot. He has stepped up in class, as I like to say, but I don't know. He's had some pretty good specials, but this one was just like, all right, Jim, kind of heard this already, sort of. But if you're Jim Gaffigan, what do you do this far in? Like, do you come out and just do like the I'm going to rant against Trump special for an hour and then lose your audience? Or you just come out and tell more dad jokes and just do that for another 20 years and retire? Probably the latter, but all right. My former coworker, Jamie Foxx, I almost bailed really early. Then he did a very good Cat Williams impression, which kept me. But then he went into a preachy part that to me seems like it was added in later. It seemed to me like the audio from the theater was too dead and it was a close-up of Jamie. So that makes me think they shot it in an empty theater and dropped that in later. I say that because I feel like somebody would have yelled out, "We love you, Jamie," or something like that. Or you would have just heard something. Somebody would have coughed or sneezed or something. The room's too dead. I see what Jamie was going for, and I think for what he was going for, it's a good version of that, but not on the list. And like I said, today's episode is not, these specials are terrible and I hate them. These are just the specials that also existed that didn't make the other two episodes and the other two lists. That's all this is today. Fortune Feimster was on Netflix in December, and I wrote, fine. Matthew Broussard, who was a guest on this show, had a special on YouTube, and I wrote, funny. It's just not on the list. It's probably, if I had to rank this group, maybe it's number one in this group, but I haven't ranked this group. This is just, not on the list. Maybe it's the number 31 special of the year, if you want to look at it that way. And I want to be fair to some specials that I haven't seen because I am recording these on December 18th to accommodate my schedule. I have not seen Rose Matafeo on Max, Nate Bargatze's Christmas Eve special, which I imagine would be way up on my list. Nate is solid and tends to be somebody that I'm predisposed to like, so I imagine I'll write that in on pencil at some point down the road. The Netflix end of the year roast thing, haven't seen as I record. Michelle Buteau is coming up on New Year's Eve, and Alana Glaser on Hilarious, because why would the Hulu publicists ever get back to me about anything? So maybe it was good, maybe not, but they don't want to promote it. I'm fine not promoting it. So what do you think? Join us in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. You can agree, disagree. You can hate on me. You can love me. You'd be like, John, you nailed that. You got everything right. I agree with, 50 specials? And I agree totally on every word you said, and you have them all ranked appropriately. We concur. And I would appreciate such a note. It's just a list. Don't get upset. It's just a list. Best of the year, roast of Tom Brady. If you don't want to count that, best of the year is Dave Attell's 37 minute special that he put out. Those were my favorites. All right. See you tomorrow.